And our very first actually dealing with one of the largest industries in Germany, the construction industry. And many of you may know the construction industry is still heavily dependent on pen and paper. But now let's see what our first team, Amnis, has come up with to push digitalization in that space and to actually make construction projects work faster.
Hi, we are Amnis, your collaboration platform for construction invoicing. Let's first have a look at the construction industry in Germany. You know the Elbphilharmonie and the airport Berlin-Brandenburg. What do they have in common? Both were disasters. They exceeded time by more than 5 years and budget by more than 5 times. Other projects have similar problems. But why is this the case? One major problem is that communication sucks. Communication in construction isn't as easy as in your typical office job. Construction projects are big, messy, and complex. There are 2 key problems that make communication in construction particularly difficult. First, stakeholder complexity. And second, chaos through handwritten and scattered documents. And to make things even more complicated, different stakeholders have different handwritten documentations.
These 2 problems are especially apparent in one process, the process of determining the billable services of construction projects. This happens after the construction work has been work, and it is a prerequisite to send an invoice to the construction customer. The person who's responsible for this process is the construction manager, and what he has to deal with is chaos. First, he needs to generate proof of work, such as pictures or labeled construction plans. Second, he needs to write a documentation with this proof of work, which usually ends up in spreadsheets or scanned pieces of paper. And lastly, he needs to get this documentation approved by the construction customer. Only after these 3 steps, the construction company can send an invoice to its customer. This process is very stressful for the construction manager because communication is inefficient. On the one side, he needs to drive to the construction projects and run from worker to worker to gather information about what has been done. On the other side, getting approval from the construction customer usually ends up in endless discussions about whether performed work is actually billable. And on top, this process still heavily depends on pen and paper. This is where Amnis steps in. Amnis provides a collaboration platform for efficient approval of billable services in construction. For this, we developed a mobile and a web app. On the mobile app, the construction workers can easily document their work, which is then synchronized with the web app. And on the web app, the construction manager can then consolidate this documentation and request approval from the construction customer.
Meet Tim Williams right here. Tim Williams is a site manager, so currently he's supervising a construction site for a new logistics center. Just last week, his team was installing pipes as well as excavating sand. Let's use Amnis together to see how Tim can get these services approved by his customer. So on the Amnis platform, you can see a list of all the services that Tim's team has performed. And you can also see their current approval status. But first things first, let's get a service approved. Right now, we want to approve the sand or the excavation of the sand. And Tim just needs to input a keyword here. Why? Well, because all the details of the services were directly extracted from his construction contract. So after adding the keyword, Tim just needs to input the quantity and add this to the list of performed services. But here you can also see one service that was not approved by the customer. Let's find out why together. Here we can see the customer went on the construction site and could not find the pipe installations that Tim has performed. So Tim now needs to provide a proof of work document proving he actually did the job. And his construction worker team on the construction site is using the Amnis app. So they can directly take pictures while the job is being done. And Tim can select one of these pictures right here, in this case, the pipes, add them to the service, and then also adding a comment saying, okay, we actually did the job and we can prove it. Then he just adds this comment and the picture, and it's done. So now he basically wants to get this service approved again by his customer. So he selects the first service and this service, and then says request approval again, so he can finally get paid. Okay. Now, of course, he has to wait for the customer's approval. But this process for him was super convenient. Why? Well, because these kind of clarification requests happen multiple times a week, and even multiple times a day in construction, and we just spared him a drive onto the actual construction site. And, oh, did you just see that the service was literally approved by the customer right away? That's great. And the best part is, Tim does not need to copy these services to his invoicing system because they get transferred automatically. So let's summarize. First, Tim could directly use all the services without copy-pasting them from the construction contract. Second, he can communicate on one platform with his customer as well as his construction worker. And lastly, he does not need to worry about the invoicing because the invoicing is done automatically.
These benefits not only clearly differentiate us from our competition, but also allow us to tap into a promising market. So let's now have a look at Amnis' market potential. Our go-to-market focuses on German construction firms with more than 20 employees. And the reason for this is simply that our product is more effective in large organizations. But at the same time, these organizations constitute only 12% of the total number of firms, while generating 70% of the revenue within the industry. This allows us to focus our sales efforts to the relevant segment. Within these firms, we then target construction department heads with access to budget with our competitive-based pricing. We charge 0.05% of the project volume handled via our platform. If we now put these parts together, we derive a 3 billion plus growing market in Europe. The calculation is simply based on the construction market multiplied with the respective sector. If we then consider Germany and a 1% market share, we then arrive at a 7.6 million initial revenue potential for Amnis. We are Amnis, your collaboration platform for construction invoicing. And together, we make construction projects successful. And now we are looking forward to your questions.